What's up, y'all? It's Matthew here, and welcome to this video. So in this video, we're going to be talking about something that's very important, and that is the very first step to actually becoming wealthy. Now, I actually started reading this book right here called The 5 Lessons a Millionaire Taught Me, and I'm going to be sharing with you the very first lesson that I've actually learned from this book. Read chapter 1, took some notes, and let's go ahead and get right into it. Anytime you're building a house or maybe an apartment, or you are getting ready to start something off and you want it to last, the first thing that you must do is you have to make sure you have a solid foundation. So with this very first lesson, that is what we're going to be actually implementing and talking about, is the very first foundation, or the very first principle that you need to understand to have a solid foundation. And that is, what is your mindset? And not just any mindset, but what is your money mindset? Now, this may seem a little interesting, and honestly, for me, it was, because I never actually thought about having a mindset about money. Generally, when I thought about money, I was like, hey, look, I go get a job, I work some hours, they pay me. And then once I get that money, I use it to pay my bills. And that is actually a specific type of mindset that you do not want to have. And that is called a poor mindset. Now, poor mindset thinks that money is just for bills, and they exchange time for money. And I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, man, well, if that is not the primary purpose for money, is to paying bills, what is the primary purpose of money? And that's how we ended up getting to the next step, which I'll actually move this down so there's no confusion. So, poor mindset. So with the poor mindset, like I stated before, is that usually with the poor mindset, you think that time is equal to money. And time is not equal to money, because when you actually lose time, whether it's 1 second, 1 minute, 5 minutes, you can never get that time back. However, if you do lose $20, $100, 1,000, even $1,000,000, you can always get that money back. And when many people have this poor mindset, they're exchanging their time for money, but they are also thinking that as soon as they get their money, they have to go and they have to pay their bills, which causes for them not to even have money left over. So for this second type of mindset, what we actually have is called the middle class mindset. Middle class mindset. Now, what is the middle class mindset? The middle class mindset is basically, hey, look, I went and I earned this money. Let me go out and buy some things to make it look like I actually have more money than what I have. So usually buying things on credit and buying luxuries. And when you are buying luxuries and when you're buying things on credit and you're looking like you're actually earning a lot of money, what that does is it causes for your money to deplete. Why? Because you are always going to be owing someone some money. You may go out and buy a car that you don't necessarily need, or you can't afford. Like, instead of going and buying a Honda Accord for maybe $5,000 to $8,000 cash, you end up going and buying a BMW, and that ends up causing you to pay $700 to maybe even $1,000 a month. When it comes to having insurance costs, your gas is going to go up because there's a specific type of gas to put in there, and you have to have a certain amount of insurance, and you also are going to have a higher maintenance. And many people don't really think about that. So what is this last type of mindset? Well, the last type of mindset is the rich mindset. Now, with the rich mindset, what is it that the rich do? What the rich do is they say, look, I'm going to live off of half of what I'm earning. And once they decide to live off half of what they're earning, what is it that they do with the other half? What the other half is, they actually purchase assets. Now, reading the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, I actually got a clear definition of what an asset is and what a liability is. And that is, an asset is something that puts money into your pocket. So when you purchase it, it's going to give you a return on what you purchased it for. Then with luxuries, it's something that takes money out of your pocket. And that's where the middle class gets stuck. A lot of middle class people are earning $80, $90, $100,000 or more per year. But because they're buying things on credit that they can't afford truly at the moment, and they're buying luxuries, they're always having their money depleting and they're never able to get ahead. But when it comes to having a rich mindset, you are focused on where is your money going. You're basically being a good manager. And when you're being a good manager, now you're able to buy assets. Those assets start to accumulate over time. And then you end up being able to earn potentially a full-time income because you purchased so many assets. So this actually caused me to think, well, if I decide, hey, look, right now I have a poor mindset and I want to have a rich mindset, what is it that I need to do? Well, the first thing is I have to become aware of where I currently am financially. So aware about money. Where is it that I'm currently at? And that is something that is very important. You have to start where you're at. Now, I went through the numbers and I was actually a little bit afraid to dive into it because honestly, I knew that I did not have the understanding of where my money was actually going. The next thing is you have to make a decision. And what is that decision that you have to make? The decision that you have to make is, do you want to be rich and wealthy? Do you want to actually be able to wake up in the morning when you get done sleeping? Do you actually want to take your family out on trips and be able to spend time with, your loved ones more often and not have to go back to work? Do you want to be able to buy things that you can actually afford and that you want to enjoy and not have to buy what you have to buy because your money is telling you no? Those are things that you have to make a decision on. And when you make that decision, that allows for you to take step number 3, which is take action. And that's actually what we're going to talk about in the next video of how I'm actually taking action on these steps.